Hi, and welcome to In My Own Words, Your Stories, Your Voice, where we speak our truth and we honor our children through our stories, through our collaboration, through our perspectives, and look forward to healing. I am your host, Savitria Bonaparte, founder of In My Own Words, Your Stories, Your Voice. Grief, as it is defined, is anguish and sadness that is felt after someone loses a loved one. This burden can be very heavy, but it can be even more devastating when that loss is that of your child. And the reason is it's because it's outside of the natural order. Children are not supposed to die before their parents. And that's what we'll talk about tonight and in future episodes. I want to talk to you about my personal journey, the story of my son Joseph, the story of how his death shattered my world, and the story of how even now I wrestle with grief, with faith, with anger, with resentment, bitterness, and healing. If you're listening, I want you to know that this is a safe space, a place where we don't have to pretend to be strong, where we don't have to hide our pain, because grief is real and it deserves to be spoken. And the death of a child is forever. You wear it like a badge. The intensity of it decreases over time, but it never goes away. There is no place in your life that the death of your child has not touched. It has touched every aspect of your life. And every time the anniversary rolls around, every time the birthday rolls around, every time you think about that child, the grief comes right back. Today, I am breaking the veil. And one may ask, what veil are you talking about? The veil that we hide behind as grieving mothers. We hide behind our religion. We hide behind cliches. We hide behind what society might think about us. Tonight, I am breaking the veil. And if you're listening, I invite you to do the same. The weight of losing my son. Joseph was my youngest son. He was only 23 years old when he died in an automobile accident. 23. He had his whole life ahead of him. Dreams still waiting to be fulfilled. But the most important role he played, the one that he cherished the most, was being a father. He was a loving, very present, hands-on, supportive father to two beautiful young children. A boy who was barely 2 years old when he died, and a little girl, 5. And just like that, he was gone. There are no words for what it feels like to lose a child. No words that truly capture the way your soul shatters, the way your world becomes unrecognizable. It is a grief so deep, so all consuming, that it swallows everything you once were. You are no longer the same person. People tell you that time will heal, that you will find peace. But I'm here to tell you that there is no moving on from losing a child. There is only learning to live with the weight of it. You adapt to this new normal. Clinging to my faith until it broke me. In the immediate aftermath of Joseph's death, approximately 8 months later, I clung to my faith. I held on to it like a life raft in a raging sea, because I needed to believe that there was still some order, some reason, some meaning to this. I continued to go to church because I was born and raised in the church, baptized at age 12. I prayed, I listened to sermons, I told myself that God had a plan, even when I didn't understand it. But then something happened. Something that shattered the last bit of light I was holding on to. It was my granddaughter's kindergarten graduation, exactly 9 months after her father passed. I went to South Carolina to be there because that's what grandmothers do. We show up, we smile, we celebrate, we hold our families together, even when we are falling apart. After the ceremony, we took her to dinner. And when it was time to leave, she hopped in the car with me. She always loved being with her grandma whenever I was in town. She was like an appendage. Wherever I was, she wanted to be. It was supposed to be a happy moment, a memory of joy in the midst of sorrow. But as I was about to start the car, she began to cry. Tears just spilling from her little eyes and from under her glasses, her tiny shoulders shaking. And I turned to her, I turned the car off, and I said, Sugar Bear, that's what I call her. I asked, what's wrong? She looked at me with all innocence and heartbreak a child should never have to bear. And she said, I want my daddy. I'm going to let that marinate for just a minute. It was at that time that the world became a very dark place for me. The veil that had been over my face finally tore. My heart became black and calloused. The faith I had clung to for so long slipped from my grasp. And for the first time in my life, I didn't want it back. I began to ask these questions. What kind of God does this? What kind of divine plan leaves a 5-year-old girl sobbing for a daddy she will never see again? That was the moment I crossed the threshold. The moment my anger at God became something deeper, something heavier, and I have been carrying it ever since. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I was angry at God. I am angry with God right now at this moment, still. How, why could he do this? How could he take my child? I don't want to hear that everything happens for a reason. I don't want to hear that God doesn't make mistakes. Because to me, this feels like a mistake. This feels cruel. This feels like betrayal. I spent my life in faith. I prayed, I believed. I followed the path that was laid before me. And yet I was still met with this unbearable, unspeakable loss. And I can't help but ask, why me? And I'm sure many mothers ask the same. Why Joseph? Why do I have to carry this kind of pain when there are mothers out there who take their children for granted? There are fathers out there who neglect their children, while Joseph was a stellar father. Why am I left here hollow, watching the world continue as if mine didn't just collapse? And I know there are people who will tell me, you can't question God. Well, God is all knowing, so why not? Every single day, I am not ashamed of it. For a long time, I let that pain consume me. I stayed behind the veil. I wore the mask of strength, but inside I was broken. And then one day I realized I couldn't keep holding it in inside. Grief doesn't go away. It doesn't shrink, but silence makes it heavier. So I started speaking. I started telling my truth, my truth. I stopped pretending I was okay. I let myself cry. I let myself be angry. I let myself ask why without feeling ashamed of the question. And that is why In My Own Words exists, to be a place where we don't have to hide, where we don't have to be strong, where we can just be in whatever state our grief finds us. The great psychiatrist Elizabeth Kubler-Ross crafted the 5 stages of grief. And she said that they are not linear. You can be angry one moment and bargaining the next. I have a message for grieving mothers. To every mother listening, if you have lost a child, I want you to know this. I see you. I feel your pain. And I will never tell you to move on. or to get over it or to let go, because we don't let go of our children. We carry them in every breath, every tear, every memory. But what I will tell you is this: you do not have to grieve alone. I want you all to join the Facebook group, In My Own Words, Your Stories, Your Voices. Again, it's a safe space for grieving mothers. I want you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you can listen to real stories and find strength. And you can also follow us on Instagram. Our handle is In My Own Words. You will receive daily encouragement, episode updates, and a reminder that you're not alone. You can watch the rerun of this live stream in future episodes through Spotify. We will become a full podcast through Spotify, and you can watch these episodes there. In closing, I want you to know that your pain is real. Your story matters. Your child is never forgotten. And until next time, keep speaking your truth, because healing begins with sharing. Our next episode will feature another mother who will tell her story, and we will find out what coping methods that she uses. We will also find out the happiest moments with her child. We will really delve in to this conversation. So we'll see you next week, next Thursday at 8 p.m. I will send out the podcast where you can go and view it after the recording. Thank you so much for listening. Please have a great and wonderful evening.